Hello everyone, it's Brian, and today will be a video highlighting my recent finds. This is recent finds number something, I can't remember. I'm thinking of changing that, going away from numbers and just going with months like other people. So maybe this will be finds for May, or maybe because it's partway through May, it's actually April finds. Who knows? I'm going to start with correcting an error I made on my Toronto Downtown Record Show video, in which I said I had completed or had collected every Tom Waits record from the 80s and 70s on vinyl original pressings. And some of them I had for years, some of them I picked up later. I mentioned that because I got Rain Dogs, and I realized when I was putting it on the shelf that I realized I didn't have Foreign Affairs, his fifth album from 1977. And as luck would have it, I walked into a record store right after that and they had two copies. So I decided to get one. This is his early loungy kind of days. Here he is with a cigarette. Here he is, as you imagine he would have been playing with a cigarette in his mouth. One of these tracks has a duet with Bette Midler, which of course I knew because I have the CD, but I'd forgotten. Not forgotten, just never really, I hadn't thought about it for a long time. But this is, if you know the early Tom Waits, you know exactly what this sounds like, and it's exactly what you expect it to sound like. Mixed reviews, though, I think. Second thing I picked up was the Zombies, Odyssey and Oracle. And I've never owned this on CD or record. I've only heard part of it in the past. Of course, everybody knows Time of the Season. Now, I was in a record store in Toronto, of course, and I was flipping through the bins, and they had 2 or 3 copies of this, all for the price tag. I think they all had $17.99 on them, sealed, brand new from this Craft Recordings label. And 2 things occurred to me is that's a really good price and I should buy it. But the second thing is, why is it that they can sell this record with a polyline sleeve for under $18 and other labels sell their records for $35, $40 for a single record? Why is that? But anyway, this is their third record from 1968, and actually it's pretty good. I don't know it very well. I've only listened to it a couple of times now, but I think it's a worthwhile thing to have. Number 3, talking about filling in holes, Joan Jett and Blackheart's Glorious Results of Misspent Youth. I have to love that record title. This is the only Joan Jett related release from the 80s that I didn't have. I'm not sure if there were any. I think there were 2 singles from this. I'm having a hard time remembering that. I Love You, Love Me, Love. Yeah, I'm not sure what the other one was. And of course it starts out with the remixed version of Cherry Bomb from the Runaways. Back in the day, ancient history there. So that's cool. That's cool to have. I've always liked Joan Jett. Next one is really just an update, or a upgrade, maybe I should say, of this record, The Free Will and Bob Dylan. This is my original. Well, it's 1967. The Pittman pressing, splitting. The vinyl is not in great shape, and I was always looking for a better copy. I was in the store the other day and I saw this one from 1970, still in the shrink wrap, and it is in much better shape. So I'm happy to have that. If you care about what labels look like. So that was a good find. I haven't played it yet, but I will. Next record is one that I originally wasn't going to buy because I didn't love this band's last record as much as I liked their earlier stuff. But the reviews seemed good, and my local shop had I lived really close to a record store, had a pre-sale event happening, and so I thought, okay, I'll get it. And that's The National, First 2 Pages of Frankenstein. Here's the inside. It has a gatefold. There's a pocket here that's empty and a pocket that had the record in it. Interestingly, this is the record. And it's on this red vinyl, which is quite nice. Now, this is kind of strange in many ways because, you know, the last National record, I didn't love it. It was okay. Yeah, it kind of missed the mark for me in some respects. I'm not really quite sure why. A lot of it seemed a little too mellow or too wacky. I'm not sure what it was. Too straight ahead, maybe. You could always count on the National to have like a barn burner, like Blood Buzz Ohio, or Lit Up, or Mr. November. And that seemed to be missing. It seems to be missing from this record too, because these are fine songs. Some of them I really enjoy, but others not so much. Apparently, Matt Berninger struggled with writer's block and couldn't come up with melodies. By the way, his Serpentine Prison solo record that came out a few years ago is actually, I think, better than this. But Tropic Morning News was co-written with his wife. I don't think that's the first time that's happened. She's contributed. But there's a bunch of featuring. So there's the first track features Sufjan Stevens. We have Phoebe Bridgers on 2 tracks. And we have Taylor Swift on a track. You know, I think that she's an okay songwriter, and I think maybe she brought something. But I wondered why they were doing these featuring things. I mean, the next record has even more that I'm going to talk about. But I think this is fine. It's consistent. It's enjoyable. It's growing on me. I just think it's not quite what I was hoping for. They've always had their quiet songs like Vandalile, Crybaby Geeks, and Slow Show, things like that. But you always were expecting something a little grander. Like, I mean, he used to be carried in the arms of cheerleaders, for heaven's sake. But it's pretty good. I'll give it some more time, but maybe he could have been better. Now the next the next record is from a favorite artist of mine, John Cale, and this is Mercy, not No Mercy. This is Mercy from 2023. John Cale, as I'm sure almost everyone will know, was a founding member of the Velvet Underground. He brought that drone, that dirty sound to the Velvet Underground. After he was kicked out of the band, he went on a solo career. So in that time, I mean, he's 82 now, right? I mean, in that time, he's released 17 solo records. There's 4 more that are collaborative records. There are 7 soundtracks. He's released, I think 5 to 7 live records. He's put out 5 or so compilation records and a handful of EPs. So a lot of stuff, a lot of material. But this is the first time we've heard from him, new material, that is, in about 10 years. In the interim, he released the reworked version of Music for a New Society, but this is the first new material in 10 years. And I think we knew it was coming. He talked about it way back, like 5 or 6 years ago. He was talking about a new record. And it's kind of amazing that we have a new record from him because, he's 82. But speaking of featured artists, this has Laurel Halo, Actress, Ways Blood, Sylvan Esso, Animal Collective, Tay Shi, I don't know who that is, Fat White Family. So there's a lot of collaborations or featured artists here. I don't know why. This is a really, you can never count on 2 John Cale records to sound the same. In some cases, yes. In the 70s, that trilogy, the famous trilogy he put out, yeah, they do sound a lot alike. But from one album to the next, you're not really sure what you're going to get. And this, to me, was a big surprise. I found it to be an unassuming record, maybe a grower for sure, but one that that really surprised me. Unexpected, I would say. In fact, the first time I listened to it and I got to the end, I thought I couldn't even recall a single melody from the whole thing. It was like, whoa, that's really weird, and I wasn't sure I liked it. But I think it's growing on me because it's so dense. It's dense. It's electronic. It's a bit. It doesn't have pronounced beat. It has no beat as far as I know. Melody. Now I had heard Nightcrawling before. There's a video for that, and I had heard Story of Blood. There's a video for that. The video for Nightcrawling is interesting because it features drawings, or like a cartoon, an animation of John Cale walking through New York with David Bowie, which is kind of interesting. So that's a good track. But it is weird, but I think that's a good thing. It's a challenge. Maybe I should say it's a challenging listen, and I think it's something that will certainly grow on me. Not that I disliked it. I certainly liked it. It's just it was very unassuming. Themes on this record are apparently Donald Trump's presidency, COVID, Brexit, civil rights, extremism, things of that nature. And I haven't delved into the lyrics yet, to be sure, but I'd say this is excellent. Amazing that we have a new record from John Cale at his age, and I don't know if we'll get any more, but that's a really good record. I think it's great. Another thing I just picked up because it was just sitting there for a good price is this Super Sound single from 1982, which has Alabama Song, Amsterdam, and Space Oddity from David Bowie. On this, you've seen this label before, this orangey RCA label. I haven't listened to this yet, but I know the tracks. That's a brief one. But speaking of David Bowie, let's move on to this. Adrian Belew, who's been topical in my videos since I did a King Crimson video recently. There's an Adrian Belew song called Pretty Pink Rose featuring David Bowie from 1990 from his album Young Lions. So the jacket talks about the fact that Belew was a well-known guitarist, innovative with Frank Zappa, David Bowie, Talking Heads, Paul Simon, King Crimson, Tom Tom Club, and it says he's currently the guitarist and musical director for David Bowie's Marathon Sound and Vision World Tour. Pretty Pink Rose is featured prominently in the show, which I didn't know because I didn't see that tour. The other tracks on here are Heartbeat, which is a re-recording of the Belewish track from Beat, the King Crimson track that he re-recorded, and Oh Daddy, which was his first single for Atlantic Records, I think, from 1989. I don't have Young Lions on vinyl. It's really difficult to find. I have the rest that precede it, but I picked this up because it was cool, and it's pink. And speaking of Belew, or should I say the absence of Adrian Belew, here's King Crimson without Adrian Belew. This is live at the Orpheum, the Elements Tour 2014 from LA. And this is a live recording with the iteration that followed the departure. Well, should we say departure or the non-invitation to rejoin King Crimson from Robert Fripp? Here's the lineup, sometimes called the Seven-Headed Beast. It has 3 percussionists, and I think they were called the front line, and the back line was everyone else. So the lineup is Pat Mastelotto, who we know from previous King Crimson recordings. Bill Rieflin, who used to play with Ministry, for example, and REM. Gavin Harrison from Porcupine Tree. And we have Mel Collins, who makes the return to King Crimson on saxes and flute. Tony Levin, who does bass and spaces and stick and vocals. Robert Fripp, of course. And Jacko Jaksic handles guitar and voice. So he's like the new Belew right here. But it's a bit jarring for me because I've been, since 1981, all I've ever heard is Belew singing. Well, unless I went back. But current new stuff, new releases, live recordings, it's all been Belew. And so it's a bit jarring to hear. I've looked online and there's some interesting recordings. On this particular thing, though, it's not like someone's singing a Belew track, because the construction of light on here is a Belew track, but there's no vocals on it. They left the vocals out. On the other hand, they've included sax and flute, which is a really weird thing to hear. I'm so used to hearing construction of light. The performance, though, is really good. I think it's a really excellent rendition, but it's really, really weird to hear sax and flute. One More Red Nightmares on here. They do really good versions of Sailor and Starless. So I think this is really good. I'm not sold on Jacko Jaksic as the vocalist in King Crimson for some reason. I don't think he's as good a singer. He might be as good a guitarist. I just don't think his voice is as good as Belew's. But other people might disagree with me. But it's good to have for my King Crimson collection. Well, all I can say now is thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.